Greetings! We're here on a misty late November day on the Oregon coast. Here at a little pull-off along Highway 101 called Bob Creek. And it's not a bad spot to do some tide pooling and see part of the Oregon Islands National Wildlife Refuge, which stretches all up and down the Oregon coast. Lots of opportunities for tide pooling, wildlife viewing. Today, not so much. It's kind of misty. You can't see much out there. But I've certainly seen my share of wildlife already out here in the trails and in the natural areas. Not just birds doing interesting things, such as when I was out on the John Day River, one of my camps out there, I saw a golden eagle take a coyote pup right in front of me. Wouldn't believe it. Just swooped right down, right in front of its parents, picked it up, flew over to a cliff right above my camp and dropped it summarily onto the rocks to die. And I know raptors can do that sort of thing, but I never thought I'd see it right in front of me, so plain and clear. And you know, at first I thought I had gotten a rabbit, and I went, wow, look at this. But then I noticed the little skinny tail, and then it started yelping, and I went, oh no, it's a puppy. It may be a coyote, a desert rat to some people, but it still was a puppy. And ooh, good splash. Then after it had killed the puppy, it went over and chased the parents away, dive bombing them and harassing them until they ran off. And I mean, that was rather a brutal sight of nature you don't always see right in front of you. But out there I did see a lot of interesting antics from our deer friends, and in other places too. Not just urban deer that seem to think that they can, you know, sort of intimidate you out of their areas, stomping and snorting, even though they don't realize that we're the sort of dominant species. But I've had them do that to me in camp even. We were backpacking into the Siskiyou Wilderness one time. Oh, this is pretty. We camped out at the trailhead in just the gravel parking lot. There's nobody there. And these deer kept coming around in the brush, bothering us. We didn't know what they were at first. We were in heavy bear country between Bear Mountain and Bear Basin Butte, where there's just bears everywhere. And so we thought, you know, these sounds were bears. And we dared to poke our heads out in the dark and see what they were. And little deer eyes reflecting back at us. And we're like, really? All this commotion? Just a couple of deer, you know. And so we tried to chase them away, and it didn't seem to work. And they just kept coming around through camp, running between the tents and the gravel. We couldn't sleep at all that night. It was terrible because they were stomping and snorting and running around and just like making us unable to sleep. So we didn't get a very good night's sleep before that hike, but we did fine anyway. My companions were certainly a little more tired than I was, but other times, for example, on the lower John Day River, I had a fawn charge through camp. I thought it was, I don't know what it was actually. It was early morning before dawn, and all I heard was a sound coming towards me. I looked over my shoulder through the mesh of the tent, and what did I see but a dark shape, smallish dark shape, coming straight at me. And it made a 90-degree turn at my tent and bolted off towards the river. And you know, I had that half second of, what is that, before I realized, okay, it's just a deer. I saw its little spots. Oh, pretty. Not seen any deer out here, but I've certainly encountered rattlesnakes, some of which were too sleepy to be bothered moving out of the trail, and I could barely even kick them out of the trail with my good old snake stick. Good old Snakey has definitely helped keep some distance between me and some of those rattler friends. But I find the smaller, younger rattlers tend to be a little more aggressive, but not to say I haven't had some nasty, ugly diamondbacks, western diamondbacks, saying, I am staying right here and you can just get out of my way, you know. And they do eventually move, but once you kind of get them to understand you are the bigger creature, they can back down. But you do be careful if you're going to try and chase a snake out of camp. Sometimes they'll try and chase you. It's kind of surprising to see how quickly they can move. And in Texas, we definitely saw tarantulas scampering around, and no shortage of all sorts of nasty little bugs and lizards and such. There's all kinds of bugs in Texas. But I think the scariest encounter I ever had, though I've never seen a mountain lion, and I've certainly encountered bears, they always just run away. One time when I was on the John Day, it was just at critter time. That one real time of night when it's just dark enough where you can't see, but critters that can see well are doing just fine. And it was, you know, maybe 9:30 at night, and all of a sudden I hear this loud meowing, a plaintive meowing off in the sage about 30 yards away. And I don't know about you, but when I know I'm way too far away for it to be from civilization for it to be a cat, I know what kind of cat it is. And deer do make that sound. They will make a mewing sound, especially the fawns. They can make kind of a sound, a crying sound, but it sounded like very, very much exactly like every cat I've ever heard. And I just about made a mess in my sleeping bag, and of course started yelling and clapping and making a bunch of noise. And as soon as I made noise, it immediately started scampering away in the bushes. But I'll tell you, I didn't sleep very good that night either. Every little sound, I went, oh, here we go. Because I know when you're out like that, the little sounds can sound big, or the little creatures can sound big, and the big creatures can sneak around a lot better than you realize. I've also had mountain goats out in the various mountains of Oregon, from the elkhorns especially. I walked right up on one, right in the trail. It was using the trail as well, the Elkhorn Crest Trail, or the Elkhorn Ridge Trail. But it was right there on the trail in front of me, and didn't really want to get out of the way, and kind of was looking at me like, you're in the way, dude. And so we sort of made our way around each other, and it was a sort of a non-event, but to be that close to those beautiful, beautiful creatures was just a real treat. And same thing in the Strawberry Mountain Wilderness. I've come across mountain goats up there. They're really beautiful creatures. And of course, down here on the southern Oregon coast and into Northern California, there's no shortage of elk encounters. I've come right up on those things, and that's certainly an incredible experience. I'll tell you, they're big, big animals. And when you come through the brush, and again, they can sneak right up on you, surprisingly. I've been poking through brush, and suddenly I come across 30 or 40 of them right in front of me, 15 feet away, and you're kind of you're looking up at this big bull, going, oh my, please don't get too defensive. And you don't know what to do. But in those cases, again, just like that mountain goat, I've sort of made my way around the herd, and we sort of navigated around each other, and everything was fine. But, don't panic. Obviously, if you're going to encounter something that's predatory, there's plenty of survival guides on what to do and what not to do, so look them up. But in the meantime, there may not be any ants, but there's still some unpleasant things to deal with when you're after the ants here in the winter time in the north. And it's the wet and the fog and the damp, and that's the price you pay if you're going to come out to the Oregon coast. But you definitely are going to see overwintering animals, and the Oregon Islands Wildlife Refuge is definitely a worthy place to look at. You can get all sorts of viewpoints from it all up and down the coast, so there's no shortage of ways to access it. So just get on out there and be safe when you're out here watching the stormy seas. And thank you so much for joining me here while I regale you with some of my wildlife encounters and some of the animal antics that I've seen and experienced out here in the wilds and in the nature in the Pacific Northwest.